All right. Well, I think we are here, and so we are going to get started. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about how do you find a collaborative partner or ally in the workplace? Because one of the things we do know for a fact, if you're being bullied in the workplace, it's a lonely place to be. One, because you're deemed as the problem and you have the entire organization oftentimes which is looking at you as if you're the problem, when in fact the real issue and the real problem in the workplace is your workplace bully. And but you're seen as the problem, and therefore you're excluded and you're isolated, and you're often frequently seen as and portrayed as and characterized as the problem in the workplace. And that's a lonely place to be. So if you can find someone in your workplace, excuse me, to be a collaborative partner, it makes your life a lot easier. But one of the things we know about workplace bullying is that it's difficult oftentimes when you to trust people in the workplace. You don't trust people, period, because people in workplace bullying are not trustworthy. So how do you find somebody that you can trust in the workplace to be a collaborative partner? And I like the term collaborative partner better than ally, because collaborative means that the intent of the relationship with that person in your workplace is to be collaborative partners, to work with one another to reduce the bullying that you're experiencing. And oftentimes, as an impact of that, is when you're reducing the bullying for you, it's often reducing the bullying in the workplace, which then benefits your collaborative partner. But again, what we know in bully culture is that most people are not trustworthy. So the key to finding a good collaborative partner is to find somebody who's fairly trustworthy. So that's the first battle that you have to fight, is to find someone in your workplace who is also trustworthy. So the question is, how do you do that? First off, if you happen to be in a larger organization or a larger department, maybe there is somebody else who is being bullied, and identifying that person might be somebody who could be a collaborative partner. But that isn't always the case, because they might throw you under the bus in order to gain favor with the bully, and you don't want that to happen. And sometimes the reality is that there is nobody in your workplace who is trustworthy. So let's address that concern first. If there's nobody in your immediate unit that's trustworthy, or in your organization, having a collaborative partner, decreases. So if it's in your unit and there's nobody to trust, the next step is to go out into another department or another unit to try to find someone who is trustworthy. If there's no one in your organization, which could be the case, what I recommend is trying to find somebody who comes into your organization, like the postal person, the person who's delivering mail, UPS, anybody like that, people who are delivering packages, or whoever it is who are coming in, that is somebody you might be able to touch base with every time they come in, have a connection and just a little bit of support. Again, that person, if they're not in your organization, aren't going to be able to provide any support. But if you have someone that you could talk to, even if it's for a couple of minutes, somebody that can encourage you, that is better than nothing. Okay, so so the first step, if you don't have anybody in your organization, is identify those people who are coming into your organization, and then we'll talk about how do you assess trust. Okay, so the first step is identifying a couple of people who you think might be collaborative partners. Okay, that's your first step in doing that. Okay, the second step, and then I'm going to give you an example, and we're going to work through if you have somebody in your department that you're trying to get as a collaborative partner. Okay, not somebody necessarily outside, because you want to assess whether or not they are trustworthy and worth any effort in pursuing being a collaborative partner. So if you have somebody else who's being bullied, you do the same thing. What you want to do is you want to watch what they are doing and how they are responding to you being bullied. So for example, if there's a meeting and you're being bullied, if that person has tried in the past to intervene or they are not saying anything, that's better. That is a possibility versus somebody who is overtly engaging in bullying and has made fun of you and those sorts of things. So anybody who has engaged in bullying, shows a lot of loyalty to the bully, just cross them off your list, because those are not going to be people that you're going to be able to use as a collaborative partner. But then let's say, for example, you have a couple of people that are not engaging in the bullying, or you have somebody who has tried to intervene and speak up on your behalf. Okay, so if you have somebody who's tried to intervene and speak up on your behalf, that's somebody who's a possibility for a collaborative partner. Just like the people who are silent, it would be better if they stood up for you, but even if they are silent, that's better than anybody who's engaged in bullying. Those are automatically no's. And then you want to watch them how they are responding to the bully, how they're interacting with the bully, and assess whether or not they're showing loyalty to the bully, or in their own way they are trying to protect themselves and they don't want to be bullied, but they're not engaging directly in the bullying. That's the first thing you do. So you assess whether or not they're engaging in bullying and if they are, get them off your list. So that could eliminate the majority of people in your workplace. And then you want to talk to them, right? Neutrally. You don't want to go and say, hey, I'm being bullied and I need you as a partner. You just want to engage and build that relationship with neutral kinds of comments about the weather, maybe, coffee, things like that, to assess their engagement with it. So if you go in and talk about the weather with somebody and they're like, get out of my office, that's a big no. If you go in and chit chat about the weather and that person, your potential partner, is engaging, then that's better. And then just keep doing that for a while and see if the other person initiates conversations about what's happening. And then you can start engaging with what's happening. Now, you don't want your collaborative partner to be a venting buddy where the two of you just get together to vent about what's happening. You want that collaborative partner to work with you to help you experience less workplace bullying. Okay, so assess their trust, start with small talk, begin the conversation around what's happening. Okay, because when you start to talk about what's happening to you, you don't even necessarily have to use the word bullying. You really want to focus on the bully's behavior towards you and how that's affecting the entire organization. Right? And so if you feel, again, trust your intuition. And if you feel like that person has some potential, then what I would do is walk out with that person. And when you get out of the office and you're in the parking lot, what you can say is something about, it's really been difficult for me working here with the way that Bob is always treating me, and get their response, right? And eventually you want to keep doing those things, and you want to approach them again, whether it's in the parking lot, or maybe you even suggest you go have coffee somewhere, after work. And then you want to say, hey, what I'm looking for is somebody to help me when Bob is bullying me or mistreating me. And you want a collaborative partner who will step up if, for example, in a meeting, if Bob is bullying you, that collaborative partner can ask questions to distract Bob away from you. That person can come and put their physical body, if, Bob has got you penned into your office, that person can walk out with you. That person can make their physical presence known when you're being bullied so that Bob knows there's a witness. You want them to write witness statements and document what's happening alongside you so that it's not just your version of things. You have somebody else is corroborating what it is that you're saying. That's the benefit of having a collaborative partner, is yes, to provide support, no, not to be a venting buddy, but to offer support. If you've just been ripped up and down in a meeting, you go to that person to talk and get support. If, Bob has his physical body in front of your office door and you can't get out, you want that person, right? You have to have some system. That person can hear Bob yelling at you. That person comes and makes their physical presence known so that Bob knows there's more than one person there. Or they say, excuse me, Bob, but I need to go talk to Jan. There's something really important I need to discuss with her. Can I go ahead and interrupt? Things like that. So it's not that collaborative partner is going to stop the bullying. It's not that collaborative partner is going to report the bullying. It's the collaborative partner will work with you to reduce your own vulnerability and step up and get involved when you need them the most. That's the importance about having a collaborative partner, is having a little bit of backup when you need it most. I think I've told this story before. I had a colleague who was really bullied, and she would get defensive in meetings, and we worked on neutral statements that she could say instead of getting defensive, like, oh, I'll take that into consideration. Oh, okay. And so instead of getting defensive, we role played and she used neutral statements or neutral scripts. The other thing, though, that didn't, just because she was able to go and use neutral scripts, that didn't mean that what was happening to her and the abuse was not affecting her. Sometimes she still would get very emotional and defensive. And I would always sit across from her and I would just tap on my glasses like this, right? I also interrupted, asked questions, try to distract. Sometimes that was effective, sometimes not. But then I would just tap on my glasses like this, and that was our signal that she should then go back to neutral scripts, okay? It was just me telling her, I can see this is upsetting you, okay? But don't defend yourself, use your neutral scripts. And that didn't stop the bullying, but it reduced her vulnerability, because when she got defensive, excuse me, she got bullied more when she used neutral scripts. It's hard for a bully to respond to, okay, or I'll take that into consideration. And so it was ways to sort of, pull the legs out from under the bully without them even realizing it. And so there's a lot of things that you can do as a collaborative partner. And the two of you can brainstorm when you're most vulnerable and what do you need from that collaborative partner. But you have to have a collaborative partner that's trustworthy. And so you have to screen them, right? Because you don't want somebody as a collaborative partner who is a pipeline back to the bully. And that's why it's so important that you assess their relationship with that bully. You look at what they've done for you, if they've intervened or tried to stand up for you. All of those are signs that somebody might be a good collaborative partner. But don't rush the process. Take it slow. And make sure that when you approach them about being collaborative partners, you feel comfortable with that decision. And also what I recommend is when you have that conversation is you have some idea of how that person can step in that doesn't really cost them too much. So for example, maybe one of the times you're really being bullied is when you go into the break room. So instead of going into the break room by yourself, the two of you could go both into the break room at a particular time, which seems like everyday work, and every day everybody you're just taking a break at the same time versus excuse me. So it looks like you are both taking a break at the same time and nobody knows any difference. That's the key to a good strategy, is nobody knows that you're doing it and you're still able to perform your job duties. And so if you trust yourself, I know that sometimes when we're bullied, we lose trust in ourselves, but you need to trust yourself and your intuition about whether or not that person can be a good collaborative partner. And the other thing is too, is regularly check in to see how they're doing. You offer them support too, and they offer you support, then it's a win-win situation. And ideally, it's so important for your collaborative partner to document what's happening, because then you have another version of you have another version to corroborate your story. So collaborative partners are really, really important, but getting a collaborative partner is a process that should take time, and you should make sure that you can trust that person to help you better deal with workplace bullying. All right, well, thank you for joining me. I will be here next Wednesday at noon. And if there's anything I can do, please don't hesitate to email me at janet@stopbullyculture.com. And also, if you go to my website, I do have some microscripts that you can download for free that I think are really beneficial and can help you better deal with workplace bullying.